I walked away from the job everyone dreamed of, left the glass tower in the middle of the city, walked away from a six-figure salary, walked away from the man I'd loved for 6 years. They said I was crazy. They called me weak. They whispered behind my back for weeks. No one asked why I left. They just retold it their way. In their version, I was the failure. My name is Madeline Hayes. I'm 34. Used to be a marketing director in Chicago. I once believed I had made it. But every morning felt heavier than the last. Like I was living someone else's life. Smiling for them. Working for them. Breathing for them. Then, one June morning, I typed my resignation email. One simple line. No drama, no blame. I just wrote, I'm not myself anymore. And I need to find her again. No one understood. My family called 9 times in an hour. My mother cried like I owed her something. My father said nothing. My boyfriend packed his things and disappeared. None of my friends asked why. I moved to a tiny apartment in Portland. Just 2 suitcases and 1 chair. No savings, no clear plan. Only one thing I knew for sure: I couldn't keep living like before. Those first weeks were brutal. I cried in the grocery store, slept on coffee shop couches, thought maybe I'd ruined my life. But then one autumn day, I helped an old man in the park. He didn't know how to connect his phone to Wi-Fi. I sat beside him, walked him through it. Took almost 40 minutes. When he finally called his granddaughter, his face lit up like a child's. He held my hand and said, "Thank you." I thought the world had left me behind. I went home and cried. Not from sadness, but because, for the first time in a long time, I felt useful. That's when I started teaching tech. Not to kids, to seniors, to those left behind by the digital world. I printed flyers at the library, started small classes at a community center. One session had just 2 people. Next week, 4. Then 10. Then we ran out of seats. I called it Connect Kind, a simple name, connection, and kindness. We taught video calling, emailing, how to spot fake news, how to book doctor's appointments online. No one thought it mattered until they saw an 80-year-old grandma sending photos to her grandkids, a widower learning Zoom for nightly chats, a woman booking her first train ticket to visit her son, and for the first time in years, they felt seen. I didn't tell my family, not because I was hiding, but because they never asked. My sister Sophie is getting married. She didn't mention me in the invitation. My mother emailed me a note: wear something light, no black, and don't talk too much about your little project. The groom's family is very professional. I smiled, quietly closed the email. I wasn't going to attend. But then something happened. A video arrived in the system, titled, "A Thank You from My Grandma. Sender Amanda C." The name sounded familiar. I clicked play. A 90-second clip. Amanda sat beside her grandmother. She thanked Connect Kind, said her grandmother had felt so alone after her husband passed. But thanks to Connect Kind, she could video call her family each week. She learned to order groceries online, and she started laughing again. At the end of the video, her grandmother looked into the camera and said softly, "Thank you, Miss Madeline. You reminded me I'm still human." My hands trembled. Amanda C. was Sophie's fiancée. She didn't know who I was, didn't recognize my name on the platform. She only knew ConnectKind changed her family's life. I cried, not because I was finally recognized, but because, for the first time, someone saw me as a whole person. No title, no job, just someone who did something that mattered. I decided to go to the wedding, not for my mother, not for Sophie, but for Amanda and her grandmother, for the people who saw me more clearly than my own family, because it was time for the truth to enter the room, and this time, I wouldn't stay silent. I booked a flight to San Diego, a gray Friday afternoon. My mom texted me, "Don't be late. Your sister's been stressing for a month." I just replied, "I'll be on time." I chose a deep navy dress. Not black, not the light color my mom suggested, just dark enough not to disappear, just true enough to remember who I am. I arrived 10 minutes early, not because I was excited, just because I always arrive early, even when no one notices. The reception hall shimmered, white carpet, white flowers, chairs draped in silk. Warm lights softened everything like morning mist. Sophie stood beside Amanda, both glowing, happy. I stood at the edge of the room for a while, then walked up to greet them. Sophie looked at me, a flicker of awkwardness. Then she smiled. "Thank you for coming." Amanda hugged me. "You're Madeline, right?" I nodded. That was it. No one said anything else. Dinner began. I was seated at the last table, the one for distant relatives or barely known guests, with my dad's cousin, an old classmate of his, and someone I didn't recognize at all. The appetizers came. I sliced the tomatoes, ate slowly, listened to conversations that had nothing to do with me. A familiar feeling, like so many dinners before. I was there, but not really present. Then came the family speeches. My mom stood first, wearing beige, soft smile. But her eyes scanned the room, like searching for something out of place. She spoke. "Sophie has always been strong, smart, sure of herself. Amanda is heaven sent. I know they'll have a full life together." Then she glanced at me, just for a second. One blink. No mention, no name. I gave a faint smile, lifted my glass, set it down without drinking. After the speeches came mingling. Photos, cheers, small talk. I stayed seated. Then a man walked over. Mid-50s, black suit, sharp features. He sat beside me. "Excuse me, are you Madeline Hayes?" I nodded. Before I could answer, he continued, "I'm Charles McCleary, CEO of the SeniorNet Foundation." My breath caught. It's the largest nonprofit in the U.S., dedicated to helping seniors with technology. He smiled. "I saw Amanda's video last week. Her grandmother was part of ConnectKind, and now I get to meet the person who created it. What an honor." I didn't know what to say. I just smiled. Then he added, "We're looking for partners on a national initiative. Your name is already on the nomination list." In that moment, the room faded. Silverware clinked. Soft music played, but everything blurred, except his words echoing in my mind. "Your name is on the nomination list." Across the room, my mom looked up, saw me speaking with him. Her brow furrowed. She put down her wine glass, but didn't come over. After Mr. Charles left, Amanda approached. She looked at me as if seeing me for the first time. "You're Connect Kind." I nodded. "I didn't know. I never guessed." I stopped her. "It's okay. Your video was beautiful. Your grandma is lovely." Amanda's eyes filled. "Thank you, truly." She turned to Sophie, whispered something. Sophie turned toward me, silent, didn't walk over. But her eyes, no longer cold, just unsure. That night, I returned to my hotel. I didn't feel tired, didn't feel angry. I just felt light. I looked in the mirror, and I was still me. No pink dress, no applause, no performance. But finally, not invisible anymore. The next morning, I woke up early. San Diego was slightly chilly. I made a cup of tea, sat by the window looking down at the street. I didn't dwell on the night before, didn't wonder who saw what, didn't expect praise or apology. I just thought of Amanda's grandmother, her gentle face, her shaky smile on the screen, and her words, "Thank you for helping me feel human again." I opened my laptop, checked Connect Kind's inbox. 14 unread messages. Most were thank you notes. One from an older woman in Florida read, "I'm 86 years old. I just video called my grandson in Australia. First time I've seen him in 5 years. I don't know how long I'll live, but today I felt alive." My hands trembled slightly as I read, and I remembered why I do this. Not to be seen, not to prove anything, but so that someone somewhere can be called by their name again. That afternoon, I got a call from Senior Net. They invited me to their New York headquarters. They want Connect Kind to join a national initiative. It's called Digital Roots, a program to bring tech access to seniors in rural areas. I said I need time to think. But in my heart, I already knew the answer. That evening, my mom called. I picked up after the third ring. Her voice was soft. "I saw you talking to Mr. Charles last night. I also watched Amanda's video." There was silence. Then she said quietly, "I didn't know what you were doing. Maybe I didn't want to know." Her voice broke. "Can you come home for dinner next week?" I sat there, listened to the wind tapping the glass, and replied, "Yes, Mom, I'll come home." The day I flew back to Portland, Sophie texted me, "I'm sorry. I never asked what you really do. I always thought you gave up. But yesterday, I saw you didn't give up. You just chose a different path. And it's more beautiful than I ever imagined." I didn't reply right away. I needed time. But I knew any relationship can begin again if both people want it to. 2 weeks later, I gave a talk at the local community center. No cameras, no press, just 40 seniors on wooden chairs. I spoke about smartphones, how to make video calls, how to spot online scams. When I finished, an elderly man stood up, leaning on his cane, his voice slow and steady. "Do you know why I came here?" he asked. "My wife just passed away. My house is so quiet now. But when I learned to make video calls, I saw my grandson smile on the screen. And suddenly, I didn't feel so alone anymore." The whole room clapped, but I didn't say anything. I just stood there and bowed my head softly, quietly. 1 month after the community center talk, I received a handwritten letter from a stranger. Slanted handwriting, cream-colored paper with tiny floral prints. The first line read, "Dear Miss Madeline, I'm a 92-year-old woman living in Montana. Thanks to Connect Kind, I just booked my very first plane ticket. Next month, I'll fly to California to meet my newborn granddaughter. Her name is Lily. I call her the late gift of my life. I read it, holding the paper gently. A chill ran down my spine, not because of recognition, but because she called me by my name. Not the woman who quit her job, not Ms. Hayes' daughter, just dear Miss Madeline. I pinned the letter to my wooden board right beside a photo from the first class I ever taught. A sunny afternoon. I was showing someone how to use email. An older woman sat beside me holding my hand, grinning wide with 2 teeth showing. One day, I was invited to speak on local radio. The topic, women changing their communities. No lights, no scripts, just a mic. The host asked, "What inspired you to start Connect Kind?" I replied, "Because I know what it feels like to be left behind. And I didn't want anyone else to feel that way again." The interview aired on a small town station. But the next day, I received over 50 emails from small towns across Oregon, all with the same question: how can we bring Connect Kind here? So I sent instructions, made phone calls, printed guides. I didn't have a big team, just me and a few young volunteers who believed. But I've learned this: when your heart is big enough, resources find their way to you. One weekend morning, I got a text from Sophie. "Are you free Thursday? My boss wants to meet you." I replied, "I'm good. What's going on?" She wrote back, "He's the director of Social Tech Foundation. They fund nonprofit projects. I told him about you. He wants to take you to lunch." I hesitated, not because I was afraid, but because I'm still getting used to sitting in brightly lit rooms. But I said yes. We met at a small cafe in Capitol Hill. Nothing fancy, not too loud, just soft light falling through the glass. He said, "I've heard a lot about you. I saw Amanda's video too. I believe Connect Kind should exist in every state." I smiled, a real smile. No defense. No pretending to be modest. I replied, "I never dreamed big from the start. I just wanted older folks to be able to call the ones they love and not feel lost." He nodded, and that's exactly why I want to invest. That evening, I returned to my tiny office, sat alone in front of the whiteboard, and wrote the first line. Nationwide campaign title, Digital Dignity, which means dignity through technology. The Digital Dignity campaign officially launched. We started at a local library, then moved to mountain town community centers, then to remote nursing homes where the Wi-Fi was weaker than a crow's morning cry. And some still called handwritten letters the internet. I showed up at the first locations myself. No mic, no presentation slides, just an old laptop and a bag of cookies for the learners. The first class in Idaho had 6 people. 4 didn't know how to turn the computer on. 2 asked, "Does video calling cost money?" We learned slowly, very slowly. But when one elderly man said, "I can see my grandson now," the whole class stood up and clapped. I'd never seen a more moving graduation. No diplomas, no flowers, just eyes gleaming with joy, and quiet whispers like I don't feel invisible anymore. Word spread faster than I expected. Other states sent invites. Local news stations ran stories. A small article appeared in the People Changing Their Communities column. A podcast called me the woman who brought Wi-Fi where Wi-Fi forgot to go. I didn't chase fame, but I've learned when a story is true, it finds its own way to be heard. A week later, I got an email from a man. The subject line read, "I'm Amanda's father." My heart tightened. I read every line carefully. He wrote, "I met you at the wedding, but I didn't know what you really did. Amanda just showed me the video." I cried. "I was one of the people who once called you a failure without ever knowing your story. I'm sorry, and if you'll let me, I'd like to support Connect Kind however I can. We need each other more than we realize." I printed the letter, folded it in half, didn't pin it on the wall, just kept it in my drawer. Like forgiveness, it doesn't need to be loud. It only needs to be kept. One October afternoon, Connect Kind reached 250,000 users. I didn't throw a party. I just sat alone, sipped hot cocoa, and reread the old email from the 92-year-old woman. She had written, "Thank you for calling me by my name. Not old lady, not outdated, but my name, Margaret Ann." I thought about that for a long time. That sometimes the kindest thing we can do is to call someone by the right name, see them by their true worth, by their full humanity. We started printing name tags at Connect Kind, not for attendance, but as a reminder, you are not invisible. You have a name, and you deserve to be remembered. One evening in late November, I got a text from my mother. "Are you free this weekend? Ms. Lan from the Women's Union invited you to speak." I was surprised. My mom had always avoided talking about my work, but this time, she reached out. I replied, "Yes, I'm free." That day, I went to the neighborhood cultural center. The room wasn't large, but it felt warm. White chrysanthemums on the table, plastic chairs arranged in a circle. About 20 elderly women were already seated. I greeted them, shared a little about Connect Kind, how it started from nothing, about those tiny library classes, about the way eyes light up when someone sees their grandchild on screen for the first time. No slides, just stories told from the heart. The room was silent, not out of boredom, but because they were listening. Afterward, an older woman came up to me. "Can you teach me how to use my iPad?" I nodded and bowed gently. She took my hand. "Thank you. You're like a little light inside the hearts of people our age." As I turned, I saw my mother standing by the door, holding a small bouquet of flowers. She stepped forward, didn't say much, just handed me the bouquet and looked me straight in the eye. "This is my daughter. She built an entire program by herself. No one taught her. No one led her, just her will and her patience." I stood still, arms wrapped around the flowers, eyes misty. For the first time in many years, I heard my mother speak of me with pride. No more lines like, "She dropped out. She's doing something online, I think." Just one sentence, "This is my daughter." I didn't leave right away. I stayed to stack chairs, fold flyers, place the flowers in a plastic vase, as if I wanted to hold on to that moment a little longer. That night, my mom texted, "Thank you for coming. I'm sorry I didn't ask sooner. I used to think you'd lost your way, but now I understand. You simply chose a different path, and that path still led you home." I read every word. Heart still. No need to reply right away, because sometimes healing doesn't come in the answer. It comes in the silence that's finally heard. December. I received an invitation from a university. They were hosting a conference on inclusive technology. The theme, how to make sure no one gets left behind. I stood in front of over 200 students, microphone in hand, no script, just the true story of my life. I told them about the very first man I taught, about the classrooms without whiteboards, only quiet, emotional nods. I told them about the elderly woman who learned to video call and the handwritten letter from Montana. When I finished speaking, the entire hall stood to applaud. It lasted nearly a full minute. I said nothing more, just smiled. Because sometimes you don't have to say anything else. The community will speak for you. Afterward, a group of students approached me. They wanted to bring ConnectKind to their hometowns, rural parts of Texas, where the internet is weaker than winter wind. I said yes. We began printing guides, translating interfaces into Spanish, recruiting local volunteers, and launched our first class in a small church hall. The first class had 9 seniors. One woman raised her hand and asked, "Sweetheart, which button do I press to send a picture?" I took her hand. "I'll show you, step by step." When her first photo was sent, the room erupted. Someone shouted, "She did it!" One person clapped, one laughed, another quietly wiped away tears. No one mentioned achievement, no metrics, no growth charts. Just one thing mattered. People were connected again. One day, I got a letter from City Hall. The mayor invited me to speak at the New Year's celebration. The theme, honoring the quiet changemakers. I stepped onto the stage. The lights weren't bright. The wind was cold, but my heart was warm. I said I haven't done anything extraordinary. I just listened and tried to turn that listening into action. The crowd didn't cheer. No flowers, just silence. And then they slowly stood up, as if their way of thanking me was respect. That night, my mom texted, "I watched you on the live stream. I never imagined you could stand so firmly like that." I smiled, didn't reply, because I knew sometimes the praise that comes late is the one that means the most. 3 months later, I was invited to speak at Google headquarters, a small event, no press, no flashy lights, just a few dozen people, tech builders, trying to make technology more humane. I told them about a button, about an elderly woman learning how to video call, about an old man who asked to be shown everything from the start, about trembling hands still trying, because all they wanted was to be called by their name one more time. A young engineer asked me, "What do you think matters most?" I replied, "Not code, not the interface, but patience and respect for the people the world often forgets." That day, I didn't take photos, didn't post anything online. I simply returned to my small office and wrote thank you emails one by one. The following week, Ryan and Amanda got married. I wore a navy jumpsuit, nothing fancy, not hiding, not apologizing. When introducing me to the relatives, my mom said, "This is my daughter, Madeline Hayes. She runs a national program for seniors." No one asked, "Wait, wasn't she the one who dropped out?" No one said, "Didn't she used to work in marketing?" Only kind words and a few admiring glances, soft, quiet, but they went straight to the heart. Midway through the reception, Amanda pulled me aside. "You don't have to do anything," she said, "but I want to give you something." She handed me a small USB drive. Inside was a video, messages from ConnectKind users across the U.S., from Florida, Texas, Alaska. One woman from Vermont said, "You don't know me, but I thank you every day. Because of you, I can call my daughter before I forget who she is." I cried, not loudly, just quietly, as if the tears had finally found their way home. The following week, I sent Amanda a small package. Inside was a letter and a custom ConnectKind install, made for the nursing home where her grandmother used to live. No fees, no time limits, no mention of me. The letter simply said, "Some connections outlast every misunderstanding. Thank you for helping me see myself again." Amanda called. "You didn't have to do that." I just smiled. That's exactly what made it worth doing. That night, I taped a small piece of paper to my fridge. Not an award, not a user count, just one line. "They'll say you failed." Until the day they ask how you did it. Below those words was my reflection. Not glowing, not flawless, but fully me. If you've ever been dismissed, misunderstood, or called by a name that wasn't yours, remember this: you don't need noise to have value. You don't need to stand out to be worthy of love. All you need is kindness and the courage not to give up. Because your silence will one day become a gentle echo, reaching exactly the hearts that needed to hear it. Where are you watching from? Did you see a part of yourself in this story? Leave a comment below. You never know. Your words might help heal someone who's never been called by their true name. And if you believe in quiet journeys that matter, hit subscribe, because your story is only just beginning.